All right, we are live. This is the Ordinance Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, January 29th, 2020 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. And this evening we have
Heather Donahue, Deputy Mayor.
Pete Larkin.
And Catherine Ruth, Town Manager, and we expect Matt Bolster to join us from work. So the first item is roll call. We've taken care of that. The second item is old business. And the first item listed is municipal ban on pesticide application.
So did you want to just review the, did you have questions about what we had discussed at the past meetings at all, Pete, or?
So I remember you having a discussion, but I didn't remember that anything.
That's pretty much where we left it.
Oh, okay.
And then summer happened. Yeah, at our last meeting that we discussed that, I think we left it that the committee recommended, where is it? Trying to get the right one open.
If I remember right, you recommended having somebody come in to do a demo.
Yeah, do some educational programming for the planning board and for the town council regarding that. And I did talk to a bunch of people. The lady that I talked to down in South Portland was very helpful, gave me a bunch of information which I had passed on to the code officer, I believe. The CEO had forwarded the right-of-way spraying, but that's like a state thing that we can tell the state as a town that we don't want them to spray on what are any of the access ways and roadways and things like that. But this was more, so that's already in place, but this was more geared towards the practices that our staff has as far as buildings and grounds and parks and, you know, the library lawn and all the different parks and stuff that we have. So that's kind of was the target of making changes as far as the ordinance, or creating an ordinance, because there isn't one now, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's been your preference for years that they don't do any more than they absolutely need to.
Yeah, that is correct. And in the parks,
I was quite surprised they sprayed the parks.
Yeah, they used to spray them, which I thought was, you know, outrageous because the children roll around on the grass and everything. So in all the parks that are under the town's jurisdiction, we haven't done that for decades, you know, almost 2 decades now. Along the sides of the roads, we have done that and then notified the public ahead of time. So that's along the sidewalks. We haven't done it for the last few years, but you can see now how straggly it's becoming. So we're going to have another solution. The library trustees or the friends of the library had decided that they would do some extra work down at the library, and so they have had a professional come in and put materials down. And Manson Park is under the trustees, who also serve as Parks and Recreation, but the trustees have always sprayed, at least for the last 40 years. Yeah. So, but all the other 6 parks that the town operates, we do not spray there or in our buildings. So that's pretty much the history here. But it would be good if we're going to do this to put it in writing, because there has been a lot of pressure to spray those areas.
Yep.
Pressure from the public or from those that are managing it? Like, are people complaining that there's weeds on the lawn of the library, or is it just aesthetics and preference of?
It's aesthetics and preference of people. Weed control is easier if there's pesticides involved, according to the staff. But the staff understands that for all the parks, we're not going to spray them.
Yeah. And is there, I mean, does the town at large have a huge weed control problem, or? No,
I've never heard anyone mention anything, except we have had people state that 2 people, that they did not want the sidewalks sprayed. And then we had like 20 people, business owners, that wanted them sprayed. And so we did that for many years before I came here, and then for a number of years. And then we stopped it because people had thought their dogs were being their cars are being damaged.
So when you talk about the sidewalks being sprayed, you're talking about like the cracks
It's
that
the
develop
cracks,
in
yeah,
the sidewalk, so
yes.
there's bits of grass growing up through?
Yes, a company or an individual farmer, usually it has the proper licensure from the state, has all of the gear to come down, and we come down very early in the morning on certain weather conditions and spray all of the cracks, you know, on the main sidewalks.
Yeah.
And we did that for years prior to the Ig Festival.
So the sidewalks haven't been sprayed?
No.
And so your feedback was that the general public didn't want them sprayed, but business owners did want them
Yes,
sprayed?
yes, he thought that we were looking straggly. And the other solutions that we looked at, just Public Works never got to them. They saw them as not efficient.
They just come back. That's the trouble with them, is spray them, they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And now, so many of them are developing resistance to the sprays that are being used.
But there must be an organic solution that will work, that some larger cities someplace have done. You know, we've Googled that, haven't really come up with anything, but there has to be another solution.
Torches.
Or two.
You can always
What's
torch
that?
them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean torches. You can always torch
Oh,
the
torches.
weeds. Go in, like a lot of farmers will use when they're just starting to emerge. They'll go through and it's a low heat flame, but it's enough to actually kill the weeds off. That what they do is they seed their crop and then they go through and flame the ground. It kills the weeds, and when the crop comes up, it gets like a 7 to 10 day jump on new weeds before they germinate. So it gets the plants ahead of the weeds, and then they start their cultivation after the fact. I don't know if that would be useful or not, though.
So that's something we can look at again.
So we have some sidewalks, Manson Park and the library, and
The sidewalks aren't done anymore, so basically the library, through the Friends of the Library, hire an additional contractor to come in and they put down the pesticides. And Manson Park has done the pesticides for many years.
Yep.
That's why it looks so good.
It's not just pesticides, though. It's not pesticides, it's herbicides.
Yeah.
Is what they're putting down.
I know, I use it interchange, most people do.
Technically you can, but to be specific, I mean, I don't see like large patches, like grubs, you know, you don't see large patches of dead grass from grubs and stuff. Maybe that's because they're treating, but that would be a pesticide versus, when I talked to Jack, they just wanted to like eradicate the clover because it's wet and it clumps when they're mowing it, and it's slippery, and it has flowers, that the bees are there, and I think those are all good things, but that it was not shared. So where do we stand on that, Pete? Do you think that we should push to actually have a policy developed to cover everything? I mean, it sounds like we kind of have an unwritten policy by Catherine's direction not to spray. Do you think it's worthwhile to codify that, or?
I think it's worthwhile because I was quite surprised about Manson Park being
Oh, I was too.
sprayed.
Yeah, I was too. Because there's so many
There's
children
so
down in the
many,
park,
and it's next to the river.
and it's right next to the river.
People fish in the river.
Yeah. 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 So do we want to make a recommendation or just develop that?
I think just develop that, we'll see what we can
Okay.
come up with. Did you run across any language when you were looking?
I will have to dig my folder out again, but there are policies in effect to different gradations of enforcement. Like South Portland had a policy, they have a lot of park areas as well, and they had a policy, and it gave So they had like a citywide ban, so like homeowners too. And there's some other towns in the southern part of the state that have that. I heard all about that from a farmer down in Falmouth, I think. You know, he was like, how do I have good quality hay if I can't spray my hay fields? You know, and it was a town-wide ban versus just a municipal property ban.
Yeah,
So that's the way a lot of them have gone, but I don't think, you know, I do think that people should be able to do what they want in their yard.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be so much for that as
Right.
it would the public areas.
Yeah, the public areas, you know, and then if they want to hire a contractor to do that, that's fine. A lot of people will do it on their own with, you know, a couple gallons of Roundup or whatever, and who knows. And that was one of his points. This farmer was like, you know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can go buy whatever they want and put it all over their lawn, and I have a license and I know what I'm doing and I can tell you what I'm putting on there to the right dilutions and everything, and I register all that and I write it down and I send it to the state. He's like, but who knows what they're putting down, and it's the concern was the who knows what they're putting down part, but it's affecting the farmers in that area too. But this I don't think would have any effect on other property owners aside from the town. And maybe it will create some awareness of other people in town, and you know, have them kind of rethink how they're.
But so the only other thing, because I was in, you know, I was sitting in the audience at the time, but, so we had Jack was in the discussion. And so the discussion was around the fact that the park's separate, and they kind of do their own rules and regulations.
The Manson Park is a funny thing, and I think we need to kind of figure that part out.
Because, I mean, if we make an ordinance and if it doesn't apply to that, then it kind of.
See, I think an ordinance would apply to it because it's town-owned property. The Manson trustee manages the park, but the town owns the park. And as the owner of the park, I think that we would be able to set rules as far as how it's managed. But what do you think?
It's owned by the town of Pittsfield. The deeds are in the name of the town of Pittsfield. It gives all the jurisdiction to the Manson Park trustees. However, if this was placed in a zoning ordinance or, you know, in another land use ordinance, that would, I think, preclude what the trustees can do.
So does this need to go to planning board rather than the ordinance committee if it needs to be under a zoning or a land use ordinance?
So the ordinance committee can develop this, or the planning board can develop it. And since they haven't met for so long, they're now going to get caught up on a few things. And so they've got a list that they're working on. So I think we will go faster if we put something together.
Okay. Okay.
And so Matt, we've just started and we're on the pesticide applications.
Oh, okay.
And that's one you don't have information in your package on, it's just in the minutes. So what we're talking about is developing, rather than the informal policy that I had on not spraying the parks, that will actually have this in the code book, so it could be enforced. There's been no issues now. Manson Park is separate and is managed by the Manson Park trustees, so they do as they wish under the all of their trustee agreement. And at the library, the Friends of the library do hire a contractor that puts down herbicides and other items and does, you know, makes the library look really nice. So those would be the two that currently aren't going by the informal procedures.
So if we develop some language to look at for our next meeting, then we would, like the committee, I'm just thinking process, the committee would develop the language, send it to the full council first and then to, or planning board first and then
I think the
back.
planning board first and then just report into the council. That way, because it'll be tentative or preliminary language is just developed, then it's being given to the planning board pretty early on, so that then they can, you know, suggest changes.
Okay. Do you think that's a good idea too?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you and I were on the one.
I think we were the only ones that did that, yeah, discuss that part.
Alright, the next one was, chapter 2, administrative code, departments discuss public works, transfer station, and recycling.
You and I worked on that too as well.
Yep, and that was language that we had, we were just looking to align what it says in the code book with what we're actually doing, and how the town is currently operating.
So it's interesting, the town has been operating the way it's been set up for many years prior to my coming. However, just before I arrived, they codified the book and didn't make any changes to it. So in reading the book, I did pick up on this and ask about it. And I was advised the book had just been codified, leave it alone. You got other things to work on, which is true. I had plenty to work on when I got here.
Okay.
So I saw your changes, and because of the cost to the ads and everything in our budget, and the fact that we have other ordinances that would be impacted, I didn't push this one forward because it's sort of a housekeeping thing. But there are other ordinances that we'll need to look at. Chapter 5 has the different titles of people in there. That's on transfer station. Chapter 10 on the street ordinance has the different titles in there. The sewer ordinances mentioned public works department and different positions. So we will go through each of the ordinances and just make sure that we pick up everything, because the cost of the advertising and the work will be less if we do this all together as housekeeping changes. And when going through, I may find something else, and maybe I know there are some other titles that are interchangeable. And of course, I picked this up quickly because a couple of days after I arrived, the road commissioner came in, but the ordinance said it was the director of public works, and public works foreman, so, these have been used interchangeably for decades here.
So, so the changes, I'm still looking for the notes that actually had those changes. So it's not the, alright, I'm gonna close that one because it's not that one.
Yeah,
Many things that say ordinance at the top of them here.
Yeah, it's in chapter 2 on page 2-23.
I was looking for where we discussed it previously, just because that had the new language. I want to
We had
refer back to the
three
minutes.
sets of minutes.
The April 25th minutes, I believe.
Oh, that's the one I just closed.
Yep.
Is it that one?
Number 3.
Yes, you got a whole discussion there.
Where's the one I just closed? Not right there. Alright, technology is not being my friend at the moment. Save a paper, waste time.
So it was in chapter 2 where again?
Yes, in chapter 2, the administrative code, the duties, it talks about the public works department, which has the transfer station in it on page 2-23.
Gotcha.
And then there's a set of the proposed revisions in the minutes, as Matt said, in the April minutes. April 25 on page 2, says number 3, Division of Administrative Service.
Yeah, we were adding municipal solid waste services
That's what I
department
couldn't
in there.
remember
Yeah.
what it was called.
It was a long title, but that was the best we could come up with.
That was the March. April, where did you go? I can't get it to open again. Do we want to read what that is, just to refresh everybody's memory, or just refer back to the minutes for those changes? We're not actually doing anything with this tonight then, we're just
Getting an update.
just acknowledging that we're gonna have those changes made and then this will come back.
Kind of a goal for the year to get the ordinance committee to to do this, you think?
I think so. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that's sitting there and waiting for other things to come along to kind of piggyback with, so it's,
Yeah, it'd be good if we could get this all done in one
right.
shot, and that way we don't have to keep revisiting and making more changes. And
Alright, so we'll just refer back to the minutes of April 25th of 2019 for the proposed changes, and then Catherine and the staff in the office will go through and find, because you have a way to index and search the book electronically.
When it works, yes.
When it works, in general.
It picks up most things, but it won't pick up everything.
Okay, and then, and you mentioned there's two chapters and the sewer ordinances that you knew had cases where the titles needed to be changed in those
Yes.
chapters, and there might be more things. So
Yes.
that will all come back with like an itemized list of what we're gonna have to actually change.
Yeah, the obvious ones are chapter 5 transfer station, chapter 10 street ordinance, and then chapter 9 sewer ordinance.
Okay.
But I know it's in other sections too.
So we're gonna process this. So this is ready to go to the council once we have those spots identified. Okay. Now, can the council review this and then agree to set it at public hearing when we have other items? Or do we have to wait until the meeting before we wanna have it set to public hearing? Like, can we deal with this now and just have it ready to go? I'm just thinking, if we wait and do these all at once, we're gonna have like 10 public hearings all in one night, and it'd be nice to spread them out a little.
I would probably do a few things together. All of them aren't gonna come together. I think the sewer ordinance is gonna take a while. That one's pretty complex. It's got the industrial users and items that we haven't covered, that we don't have in here. It's a 1976 ordinance and it needs to be updated. But I did notice, I didn't give you copies of the 1970 ordinances I found, because other towns have it too. But there's a few newer versions that I gave you that weren't really long. Some of the sanitary districts and the sewer districts had like 112-page ordinances. We don't need that. We need something we can understand, that people will actually read.
Right, right. So can the council look at this in the next, like, 3 meetings or so? Like by the end
I
of,
would do this when we get a couple of more things.
to have a bunch of public hearings at once?
Yeah, I would do a few at once, but I think that some are gonna take a while to do. Your pesticide application might take a while, just to get all the research, and the sewer ordinance will take a while. In the meantime, we have the planning board working on these other items, some of which should not take a long time.
Some of them have been waiting for a year.
They have, yes, and we've spoken with them about that.
Yeah. Okay, so this will process to the council then, with other items.
And then we've got, of course, the one that was brought up by Pete and Amanda on the social media procedures or ordinance. So if they would be covered for their Facebook pages on what the requirements would be, and fall into the town and everything. If they had individual pages. That one, I have a lot of good examples. We would need to get a legal review on that one.
Okay. Okay, so are we all set on the sewer? Because we kind of jumped into that one too. Are we gonna review that tonight, or do we wanna have an entire meeting for that? It sounds like it's a big item to do.
All right, this is more of an introductory meeting, so you get caught up. I wrote up the items that you did last year, the ones that carried forward, the ones that were on the planning board, and then the new ones from the planning board, and then the new ones that have just come up. The sewer ordinance has worked well for the town. The reason why this came up is because of Main Street and having to try to dig through the concrete to get to the other side where the sewer line is, and having it be the responsibility of the property owner. Normally going to where the sewer line is not an issue, because it's on a street like mine, a narrower street, so it's not that difficult. But the ones that are the state roads, Heartland, Somerset, and especially Main Street are an issue. But it's something that we would need to put more information together on and get the costs if the town's going to be responsible for this type of work, we're gonna have to figure out how it would be paid for and everything, because there are a lot of bad sewer lines out there. And especially on the main street, with that project coming up, if all the sewers are gonna be reconnected somehow, and this was not intended to be done, then the town would have to have money to do that too. If we change the ordinance, then people would want their sewer lines fixed and such. So we'd have to carefully look this over. And so I got some different ordinances. I picked the ones that were the simplest to read, the ones that came up first on when I did the Google, and one from Fairfield, because that was set up sensibly. And I haven't read all the different sections. Some of them have the town responsible for the up to the sewer main. Most don't, according to let's see, the organization that we work with in Portland for water and sewer issues, according to the staff. And so the staff wants to do some recommendations and go through the ordinances, and I think it would be good and behoove us, as we were talking before the meeting, we'll have all of our associates add this to their regular workload. They're working on some other regulations for us too, and they would probably have a lot of expertise in picking out what to do.
Right, I think that would be the most beneficial things, to have them take the first crack at it and then give us recommendations to go on, because I don't know about you, but it's been a little while since I dug up a sewer line and
Yeah.
kind of had to
Well, they have.
get into the nitty gritty of doing those things,
I
so.
really don't want to.
Like, never.
Well, yeah, and especially if they work with like multiple different towns, I'm sure they've gone
Right.
through this at one point in time, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they could point out things to us that
Yeah.
we may not realize.
And something that we think might be sensible, you know, as the people doing the work would look at it and say, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So just to have like the first-hand users of the policy help develop the policy.
Yeah, Chris is already looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, he put together a book of the ones that he found in the office. So we can get our sewer ordinance updated at the same time, look at, you know, should we go to the main or not issue. And that's how this first came up, but we should update the ordinance at the same time and look at the pre-treatment and everything.
Okay, so pre-treatment was one of the issues, and then the accessing sewer main.
Yeah, and the Route 100 is a big issue, trying to
On
put
main
your
roads.
utilities in.
Didn't Pete bring up
Well,
last
another
year?
one, yeah, the other one that comes to mind is the new one that got put in on, is it Somerset? Because got put into the middle of the road, so now both people on both sides of the road have to go to the center.
And don't you have to get like some kind of permit to shut down the road where it's a state road? There's some
Road opening.
road opening permit, you know.
Yeah, yes, we do need to get that. And then there's certain requirements that are, because of its width and being the state, they require certain things to be done by whoever is the contractor. So, you know, it is an expensive proposition. Whereas all these other roads, you know, the town's in charge of them, so we use safe practices, but the contractor, it's less expensive for the contractor to fix things.
So what would be the situation that somebody on Main Street would need to even access the main line?
There's a concrete base there on part of the road, so that is a big issue. That's why the sides of the road are falling off again, because that's where the concrete stops. For that road, Billy Bradshaw, who was on the council for a short period of time, before he left for Southern Maine with his family, called up the town office and said that he was going to get a road opening permit to shut down Main Street. We're like, we know the state won't let you do that. Make sure you call the state. Don't start digging. And the project was so big that in order to do it sensibly and for a reasonable figure, you would have to shut down the road, and the state said no. And so the project never got done.
And so was that to like put in a new development or something?
It was to fix somebody's line.
Oh. So was their sewer line leaking? Is that why it needed to be
It
fixed?
probably
or-
would have been good to have, they ended up doing something else, but
Okay.
it probably would have been good to have done that up.
Okay. Huh. Right. Okay, so we will wait to receive something from Oliver Associates and our sewer water staff to review those things first for recommendations before we do anything else with that.
Yes, and Chris, said that he would come in and talk with us.
That would be awesome.
It would be, he knows a lot. He was always so quiet, then he got promoted and he talks all the time.
So we're still waiting for the tiny home things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then on hold at the planning board, they brought up some temporary signs. This was, the feather signs that get set up in front of Walgreens and other places. Some of the members felt that those were inappropriate, so they brought up, they're working on some language about that. It was brought up about the road system adequacy, and that has to deal with down at the Somerset Plaza, and is the road adequate to take care of all the traffic, given all the turns without a light. And so this is where the planning board is drafting language in which it's felt that there needs to be an analysis of the road system and its capabilities and how it would be changed either with a third lane or a light for the future, and as well as other projects. So they're thinking of having a special study that would be done on each of these projects. So the state, of course, it's a state road, so the state makes its determination on what it will allow and not allow. And at the time,
I was at the planning board meeting, there was
pardon?
I said I was at that planning board
Yes.
meeting, there was quite a battle
Mhm.
over the state study.
Mhm.
So it said that it didn't need to be a light because there wasn't enough traffic.
Yeah, the state did say that. Mhm.
Well, I want them to sit down there and try to get in and out of any of those like 6 access ways to that very small area.
That's the key word right there.
Or stand there and try to cross the street, you know?
The 6 access ways there.
It's crossing the street that's the issue. You can get out, I really haven't had any issues, but there's a lot of uncontrolled accesses down there in the
Yes.
same area.
Is
They're
it-
quite close together.
Is it possible to take out the access at the Sebastica Credit Union end of the Bud's parking area there? Dunkin' Donuts probably wouldn't like that very much, but you know, that would eliminate people cutting straight across and going diagonally, except for the credit union. But their access is kind of over, or I guess their exit is over, but their entrance is, I don't know.
Yeah, a few people use that side entrance,
Mm.
but that would make a new traffic pattern in the plaza.
It would put more traffic
Yeah,
through that way.
by Dunkin' Donuts. So at this point, these are all accesses that are approved or grandfathered.
Yeah.
And so they're there until the road is redone or remodeled, and then the state can change things. For example, if the state came in and said, look, your traffic counts are really high. When we redo this road, we're gonna put a third lane in. Then they change things around. You might have a huge access and then it will become a lot smaller or
Can we
more
ask
controlled.
them to do a traffic study? Now that we have Dunkin' Donuts in there and the A&E is in there.
Nitro trailers.
Nitro Trailers is in there, we have more businesses going into the industrial park. Can we request them to do, like, when was the last traffic study done? Do we know?
All right, there was a professional traffic study done
By Dunkin'
just before
Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts went in,
Oh, okay.
which showed the numbers.
And is that just reviewing data that the state already had, or did they actually lay down the counters and?
They did estimates based upon the counters that were down, and then what was estimated that Dunkin' Donuts would bring in from looking at other Dunkin' Donuts of a
Mhm.
similar size, and
What time of year was it done? Do you know? 'Cause it's-
spring,
It's really
It
different
was-
in the spring than it is
it
like
was-
in July.
it was done in spring.
Yeah.
So we can ask them to look at that, we have done that before, and they've said it's on their list. They probably won't do a full-scale traffic study.
Not unless another business goes in.
Correct, yes. And at that point, they'll require that the business,
That
like,
business
doesn't
might have to eat some of
pick up everything that needs to be done. Yeah, that's sort of the way it works. They will require that business to do a traffic study. They would do their own little study, and then study the traffic study from the
Study the study of the study.
independent contractor, consultant there.
So nothing we really can do other than ask them again and move on.
Yep, this is true.
Alright. So the last thing so that's all just kind of in the hands of planning board.
At this point.
And then G was the interim sludge management, and the chapter 9C and 9B.
Yes, so we had an interim sludge management ordinance back when the issues came up about the real sludge, not the types that you have now with your different variations that actually are good for the property, but the actual real sludge back in the 80s and 90s. And so there was an interim sludge management ordinance that was put into effect for a period of time, and then it would either become the sludge management ordinance or it would all dissolve. But the town codified everything. So we have two ordinances in there, one for interim and one for sludge management. And the legal opinion is that we have to take the whole thing and use everything because they're all the regulations of the town. So I pointed out to the code officer, if he was looking at this one item of the beneficial type sludge that you can bring in with certain compositions of items in it, that we should look at the whole ordinance and get this resolved. Because technically, this is all a legal ordinance, but it's like there's two ordinances in there.
So it needs to be combined.
Yes.
Okay.
And updated.
So you're asking them to update it to reflect new materials that are available, like the ash and things like that.
Yes.
And specifically say there's a difference between ash and sludge.
Yes.
There's a huge difference.
Exactly, yes. And so, this is interesting, this has come up like this. On Monday, the code officer asked me what I thought he should do with the sludge management ordinance. So I went over all this, and then he said, well, how do we get the people's opinions? And so I suggested that he just, this is an ordinance that has regulations that regulate mostly the farms. So put out a notice to all the farmers and get them together and see what they think. So he's calling it an informational session, I think on February 10th, I believe. I saw the notice with the Rolling Thunder, the PO. So you'll get contacted on that as well as all the other farmers. And we have a list of the farmers. So they'll talk about the ordinance and the materials they use now, what they'd like to use, and we'll probably get a lot of good information. Tom Cody knows a lot about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is this just, is he just contacting farmers in Pittsfield? Or, because I know there's some in surrounding towns that have fields in Pittsfield, but they don't live in Pittsfield.
So
and they might not own the fields, they might just be managing them,
So the ad would go out and everybody would see
Okay.
it. If you have other names of people that we can contact, that would be helpful, because he may not know all of those
I think
ones.
probably Seth, but Seth had talked to him earlier in the summer about that, and I'll put it out to my farmer people and just let them know.
Yeah, because you all will be the best people to know, what would work.
Right. Did he, do you know if they rescheduled the speakers that were supposed to come to the last meeting?
I think
Couldn't come?
he indicated on Monday that there was a speaker being lined up.
For the 10th, the meeting on
I'm not sure, I think it's for the regular planning board meeting.
the 10th. Oh, so the 210 is not the regular planning board meeting, it's a separate thing?
Let's look and see, because they moved their meetings around a little bit. So if we have an informational session
Second
on the
Monday.
10th, I suspect they don't have any regular items for the regular agenda, so they're making it like a big informational meeting. because the ad I saw was an informational meeting that night. So probably that's gonna be the planning board meeting, it'll be an informational session.
So they're not gonna address anything else that they're holding on to here?
The tiny homes.
Like the tiny homes that's languishing and waiting?
He said he didn't know what they were gonna do with the tiny homes, because I did ask for a progress report. So I think that they're gonna concentrate on sludge. I'll verify that tomorrow. But it's an informational session according to the ad.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a separate question that doesn't have anything to do with our meeting now. Since the office is closed on Wednesday, is he still working on Wednesdays, or are we changing his hours so that people are able to come in and
He's
drop
still,
off and pick up permits and stuff on
Yeah.
a different day?
he's still working on Wednesdays, so that means that the public has access to him on Monday and Friday. So I spoke with him about that, is this going to be enough? And once we get in the summer, people are gonna want to see him more. And so I did ask him, can he change his hours? He's not working for Detroit now. He does work for some mortgage companies, but is that work that could be done on Wednesday?
Right,
Yeah, so he could come in on Tuesday or Thursday.
right. I mean, it's pretty limited already, the time
Yes.
that you can get a hold of him, because he's either out doing inspections or not. So that's really, I mean, if he does inspections for half a day on Monday and Friday, that only leaves one day a week that people can access him to ask questions or pick up applications.
We did go over that, so he's to come up with a new schedule.
Okay. Alright, so we'll wait on sludge then. Hear about that. New business, other ordinances, ordinance amendments, social media, Facebook.
All right, so this had come up, the town employees have a form that they sign that tells them the do's and don'ts in the internet world. So this item had come up because both Pete and Amanda would like to have their own Facebook pages. However, they don't want to be out there on their own, if you get freedom of access items, and it would be good, according to the Maine Municipal Association, if we did cover them under town regulations. And so when I called MMA, I asked if I couldn't find any particular social media policies or Facebook use by town councilors. So they had their policy on there, which was very good, but that was one tailored to MMA. And so I asked the attorney if they had any particular ordinances that they liked, and they did not have any in-house, but suggested I go to the city of Portland. So I thought, well, city of Portland, that's probably, quite a big policy, which it was. I did locate that, but it seemed as though we need something simpler that will just make things clearer as to the do's and don'ts, basically, and how this would be set up. And so we didn't find a lot of ordinances on the internet that dealt with town councilors, like if you had a web page or mostly your Facebook pages, but we did find a few in other areas, which would give us some good language, and then whatever we came up with would have to be checked legally.
So to clarify, if are you looking to set up like a Pete Lodge's District 3 town councilor Pittsfield
Well,
page
same page.
for people to, a fan page, Pete's
Yeah.
fan page.
One of my-
Councilor Pete.
One of my questions was, because I didn't want the Freedom of Information Act to be able to pull my personal, so I was asking if I needed to set up a separate one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And then also, basically I was just looking to maybe post some things that already happen in meetings that some people might not catch,
Right.
and just throw some things out there.
Yep.
That's all I was looking for.
I've steered clear of all that. I don't even mention anything. I'll share things that have interest, like I shared something about tiny homes, and I tagged Jamlux the other day.
Yeah.
He had some snarky remark about that,
But that's all.
yeah, I'm not like, hey, I'm a counselor. I just don't even say it.
Yeah.
I just don't, and if people contact me, I'm just like, I just give them a phone call back, because I don't want any of that on my personal page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would definitely do a separate page so that it wouldn't pull into your personal items or other pages you might have. But MMA did say, you know, for the protection of the counselors, you know, it would be good if they followed on their town regulations. Now, you may decide, once we figure out what these are, that you don't want to do that, and so that's fine too.
I think that there's a way to have a Town Council of Pittsfield page and have each of us be administrators on it. And that way, if you post something, you know, the rest of the counselors will see it. And then if people have questions, like I could respond to something and it would show like me responding. Do you know what I mean? Like it would almost be like a group page and each of us would be able to see. Because otherwise it might not come up in my feed if somebody's asking questions
No, I
or making
understand,
comments or
and
something.
people do these things and it sounds wonderful, but it also is perceived that this page with the counselors all on there talking to each other is a meeting.
Yeah.
That has not been publicized.
Well, no, it can't, because we can't even call in to a meeting to have a meeting. So how can that be considered an electronic message in the public sphere?
They've just determined that as of this summer.
Huh.
Not here in Maine, but
Yeah.
in another state.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can try to draft something simple, like a couple of pages or a page that talks about all this and
Yeah.
see how it works out. And if it works out to your benefit, that's good. If it's too cumbersome, then, you know, we don't have to have it.
Yeah.
But it was thought by MMA it would be best if the counselors came under the town's jurisdiction for legal protection, basically. Yeah, it's interesting, if you have Googled on the internet there, been interesting situations outside the state of Maine,
I'm sure.
in a few in the state of Maine.
Well, yeah, there's stuff inside the state of Maine too. That guy up in Jackman and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's been some instances.
Like you all are just trying to get out information, but, you know, you may get people on there
Yeah,
that
that make
do other stuff.
derogatory comments or
Right.
stuff that you really don't want.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that you don't have any control over what somebody would be posting to it for comments, because once you do have one, you can't block anybody from it. That's the tricky thing. And then
Yeah, I think we're better off just to stay away from it unless it's like requested by the public or whatnot, because I don't want to open up like this huge, like
can of worms.
another can of worms.
I mean, I
It's a
like
good-
the idea
It's a good idea, yeah.
of being able to have
It's just a really
that
easy way to get out
interchange.
Yeah.
stuff.
It's a
but-
super easy way to get out information. I like the idea of that flow of information. You know, that's what we've been trying to do for the last 2 years, is make it so that people understand
Yeah.
what we're doing here and why we're making decisions that we're doing. So I think it has value in that respect, but it does open up a can of worms. You know, there are issues around it, and I understand the concern about like freedom of information. Like if
Yeah.
you respond to anything, all of a sudden everything on your personal page.
Well,
is-
that was my concern.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you would definitely have it be separate, and then that's why MMA thought it would be good to be under the town's jurisdiction. But we can look at that, see what we can come up with. I will take all these and draft something for you, try to keep it simple and to the point, and then we can have it reviewed by MMA first, since they did offer to do that, by the new attorney there who's learning. And then we'll see, you know, what you like and don't like, and the final one, if you're gonna do it, should be looked at by the town attorney.
So you're gonna try and draft something of a conglomeration of some of
Yes.
the ones that we have.
Yes.
Simple, have it reviewed by the MMA attorney, bring it back to us,
Yes.
and then we'll send it to the council. The council likes it, it'll go to review before
Yes, it will have
Before
a legal
we,
review, yeah.
have-
Just
before we
because,
set it to public hearing.
yeah, just because I've had, you know, thousands of requests for information over the years. I never considered it freedom of access. You just gave people the information that they wanted and put out all the records and the books, you know, unless it was confidential. And then we had the one from the budget meeting in which the media wanted everything, all my emails. And it was thousands and thousands and thousands. And then because everything was together, and I was on 12 boards, 18 committees, but had leadership positions on several, and then I had all the economic development. So then we had to start weeding through all this, and then they had to be redacted, the whole thing was crazy. So, now I'm wary of this, and so.
Well, maybe even social media is not the way to go, but we can do something like a message board.
I would
And
love.
so with a message board, you can throw out stuff and people can't comment on it. It's just simply there for
Well, that would be like the
information.
town has a Facebook
Oh, so they
page.
do, okay.
Yeah, the town has a Facebook page that pretty much just posts things. People can't really comment on it. They can share it, but there aren't really like open comment type things. And then there's always Heart of Pittsfield. Heart of Pittsfield's been sharing a lot of the things that are, I wish they'd share everything that comes out instead of like just some things. But I think it's hard for them to keep up on all the things that are happening within the council or the
Yeah.
planning board or everybody, you know.
I just know I liked, so when you did your little thing with the theater, where you kind of threw out the questionnaire.
Oh, the questionnaire.
Yeah, see, I like stuff like that because that gives a lot more broader
Yeah.
people's input. than
Yeah,
just-
I think it'd be great if we did more surveys like
Well, that's
that.
what yeah.
And you can actually do surveys on the town Facebook page. You can put out little, like, just 2-question surveys, like, you can do, yeah, you can do opinion polls,
Just
or
opinion
you
poll or
can
something,
be
yeah.
like, you know, we're changing the logo. Do you want a green and white logo, or do you want a blue and white logo? And then
'Cause
people
I mean, a
vote
lot of
on it.
people, even with me, when my kids are younger, you know, I have interest, but I don't have the time. I
Right.
got basketball games, I got stuff that's important for family life.
Yep.
But if they had like a message board or a poll or something like that, I think you'd get a little more people's input and participation.
What do you think about having like?
So I mean, if I can log on the computer at home at 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, and, you know, just
Log
answer a couple
through.
questions, or it's a lot easier to do something like that than to come into the meeting and sit through
Mhm.
everything that I don't really have an interest in, but there's some things that I might have an interest in.
Right. Right.
All right, so I'll work on this, and then we'll get the pros and cons.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. What is this one here? Oh, look at that. Set the next meeting already.
So we kinda gotta wait on the planning board and
Yeah, we're waiting. Well, no, we can set another meeting date and we can look at Ben Hall's proposal about the committees,
then, yes,
because that didn't make it onto the agenda.
yeah, that's a really good idea, I like that.
So we've got,
Yes, they're
What's
having
today?
a
Today's
meeting
28.
on 12/13 with the different groups invited, so I think ours should be after that so we can get the input.
well, we have a council meeting on the 18th. We could do it on the 20th, maybe?
Sure.
Because that would not be a finance committee night. And that would give us a week after the meeting of,
All right, the 20th would be better. The 19th, we've got a meeting here.
Yep. 20th.
So I'll definitely have the social media part. The sewer will move along a little bit. We will have found some of the other references to the different positions in public works, transfer station, and recycling. How about the municipal bans on pesticide applications? How do we?
I'll go back through and gather up all of the information that I had from the other towns. And I'll make a packet and give it to Pete, because Pete hasn't seen any of it. Do you want another packet of like the South Portland policy and,
No, I should have that.
okay.
I think I had that from last time.
So I'll need a copy of that. If you
Okay.
email us if you're able to email the items, we can make the copies. Or-
Okay,
I think you emailed it last time.
I think I did email it. I'll go
Yeah.
back and look.
That's where I have it on mine.
And that has like their policies and their alternatives to what they were using.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think
like
it was
this
South
long.
Portland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it covered the whole town. It was South Portland, Rockland, and maybe Bath.
As long as we don't get near the Brunswick one.
Um, there was actually a list of the things here. It's that 120, it's the 4, if you go back and read the minutes actually that are online for our, I'll just send you the minutes, Pete, how about that, for the 425?
It was on 425. Aren't they included in
Yes.
what you just sent us, I think, right?
Yes, actually, it's all right in there. But those are like the people that I talked to, so I'll find the packets of information and
Okay.
I'll forward those to you too,
Okay.
and Catherine.
All right, so we can move all those will move forward.
All right, and
Then we're doing February 20th at 6 p.m.
do you
No,
want to do 6 o'clock again, or do 6:30?
Is it better for you for 6:30?
6 is fine. I just, for some reason, I always thought I saw it 6:30
I thought
because it was
6:30
regular
too.
council meeting.
Do we want to just do 6:30 and then just keep all the
I think
meetings at
that's better,
6:30?
yeah.
Let's
If
do
that's
that.
cool with everybody else, that's fine with me.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing we're at 6:30. When I arrived here, the meetings were all at 7:30.
Oh
boy.
my gosh.
They're late enough.
Yeah, and I mean,
Well,
I'm
Ordinance isn't
good,
bad, but-
I'm good on Wednesdays, but once farmer's market starts again in mid-April, you know, I'm up at 3, and to do meetings on Wednesday night's a little bit much
Say
for me.
Wednesdays are a little tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
6 o'clock's all right, but once we start getting later, then.
yeah, I like 6:30 is fine with me. 6:30 is good because then all the meetings are at 6:30.
Yeah.
But
And
this
I-
is good. This next meeting's gonna be on Thursday. Though.
Thursdays
That's
are
cool.
good.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thursdays
Yes,
are good.
that's, okay.
Just Wednesdays, I mean, Wednesday's good for like another month and a half, 2 months. And then Wednesdays are difficult.
Wednesday's my hectic day as well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was there something else I was gonna say? We had also briefly talked about a plastic bag styrofoam ban, but I think the state already did that.
Yeah.
So that goes into effect, is it next year?
April.
This April.
Something happens this April, the plastic bags is this April.
Okay.
According to, I haven't gone to an official source, but according to people who should be in the know, be in the stores.
Yeah.
but
And then
we'll
is it
verify.
styrofoam packaging too was covered under that? Was it like single-use plastics?
Well, I haven't seen that listed anyplace yet, but we thought we would go to the state website and find out exactly what was going on.
Okay.
I didn't see anything earlier. But we need to know that for recycling.
All right, so next meeting, we'll look at pesticide stuff, we'll talk about the social media thing, we'll take a preliminary look at the sewer, do you think? Or do you think it'll be a little while longer for Oliver and Chris to do their review?
We might be okay for some preliminary information. We won't have the final ordinance.
No,
Or
no.
even the draft. of the
I'm just
ordinance.
thinking the pesticide, the social media, and then the committee one
You have
would,
Yeah,
Pinnacle.
definitely want to get this committee thing done before like pool season and all that.
yeah, I think that should, I think out of all of these, that's a priority.
Because I think after what we went through last season,
Right,
the pool,
to
I think
give
that's gonna
them
be.
time to
yeah.
coalesce and come up with committees, and then we'd have to appoint people to those committees, and they'd wanna have meetings,
Mhm.
so,
All right, and by committees, we're talking about all the little recreation groups.
yes, the
Correct.
recreation
All right.
conglomeration.
Yep. Consolidation.
Consolidation of recreation. Okay, so we'll deal with that on the 220 meeting. And that way it'll give them time. Catherine, when is you said it's February 13th?
Yes, February 13th is when the Pinnacle's hosting a meeting and everybody, all the other groups. Or
Can
some.
I, can I go to that also?
It'd be open to the public.
Okay,
They reserve the
I'll
room.
ask them.
I think they're starting out with Pinnacle things first.
Yeah. Okay. It'd just be nice to hear from the people involved directly.
It'll be an interesting meeting.
Do they do that meeting like at the club house or something?
I have no idea.
or-
I figured
Oh.
I'd just ask them. And I'll let you know.
Hmm.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, they'll be meeting down here.
Down here?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be filmed.
Yes.
I'd like to make a planning board meeting sometime. I just don't have the time. It seems like.
They're not having another, it sounds like the 10th of February is the next one.
Yeah.
And right now Sled is the only thing that's on there.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of the informational ad, which I just saw.
Okay, I just found my, Rolling Thunder in the mailbox this morning, so I haven't even opened it yet.
Yeah, it's not in there yet, it's going in.
Oh, it's going in,
It's
oh,
going
okay.
in.
I was like, okay, I didn't miss it yet. I think that's it then.
I think that's enough.
Anybody wanna go home?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I liked it when it was just us and